History is not shaped by armies, nor by wealth alone. It is shaped by ideas. Empires rise and fall. Inventions are born. Revolutions ignite. And civilizations transform. All because of ideas that once existed only in the minds of dreamers, rebels, and thinkers. An idea is more dangerous than a weapon, more powerful than an army, and more lasting than any throne of kings. What begins as a spark of thought becomes the engine of innovation, the heartbeat of movements, and the foundation of human progress. Inspiration is the fire that keeps this engine alive. Without it, ideas remain lifeless, trapped in silence. Inspiration turns hesitation into courage, doubt into determination, and ordinary people into extraordinary leaders. Every great leap of mankind, whether it was the discovery of fire, the fight for freedom, or the exploration of space, was fueled not by mere logic, but by inspired ideas pursued with relentless conviction. The truth is simple. Ideas rule the world, and inspiration is their fuel. Those who master both will never be forgotten, because they carry within them the power to shape tomorrow. To understand this power, let us uncover it in 7 unshakable truths. Idea is not just a passing thought, not just a whisper in the mind. No. An idea is a seed, and once it is planted in the soil of time, it has the ability to grow beyond the life of the person who first dreamed it. That is why ideas outlive generations. That is why they endure. And that is why they shape the destiny of people long after the original thinker is gone. Think about it. The person who first thought about freedom is not here anymore. The man or woman who first whispered about equality, about justice, about dignity, they're long gone. But their idea is not buried with them. It continues to breathe, continues to echo, continues to inspire. The idea of freedom has toppled empires. The idea of dignity has lifted the oppressed. The idea of knowledge has pushed mankind forward, century after century. You see, we all die, but an idea, if it is powerful enough, if it is true enough, it can live forever. Here's what I've learned. People may forget your name, they may forget your face, but they will never forget the idea you leave behind. That's what makes it extraordinary. The human body is fragile. The human life is limited. But ideas are immortal. An idea can jump from one mind to another, from one country to another, from one age to another. And every time it takes root, it grows into something larger, something stronger, something beyond what the originator ever imagined. Take a look at the world of science. Newton discovered gravity centuries ago. He's not here anymore, but the idea of gravity, the law he uncovered, still governs the universe, still governs our technology, still governs every movement we make. Einstein is not walking among us today, but the idea of relativity is still shaping our modern world, from satellites to GPS. Those ideas did not vanish when those men closed their eyes. They stayed alive, traveling, multiplying, influencing. That's the legacy of a great idea. Now, it's not only science, it's philosophy, it's leadership, it's human progress. Think of Socrates, or Buddha, or Confucius. Their bones are gone. Their voices are silent. But their ideas, they continue to teach. They continue to inspire millions who have never seen them, never met them, never even lived in their time. Isn't that extraordinary? You and I can still be moved by the words of people who lived 2,000 years ago. That's the reach of ideas. And here's what I want you to see. When you get an idea, treat it with respect. Don't laugh at it. Don't dismiss it. Don't say, it's nothing. No. Ideas are fragile in the beginning, but powerful in the end. They don't come fully formed. They arrive as little sparks, as whispers, as something so small you think it doesn't matter. But if you nurture it, if you build it, if you give it energy, that idea could outlive you. That idea could travel beyond your time, beyond your children's time, into the very future you will never see. And let's be clear, bad ideas can also live long. History proves that. Tyranny, greed, corruption, these too are ideas that infected nations and destroyed civilizations. So the responsibility is great. It is not enough to have an idea. You must weigh it, test it, and know whether it is worthy of survival. Because the idea you set free may live for generations. It may influence people you will never meet. So, here's the challenge. What kind of idea are you creating? What kind of idea are you living by? Will it inspire freedom, or will it breed fear? Will it bring growth, or will it bring destruction? That choice is yours. And don't underestimate your ability. Don't think you're too small to create an idea that matters. Every great movement, every great transformation, started with one person who dared to think differently. That's why I say, guard your mind. Collect good ideas. Refine them. Share them. Teach them. Because the day will come when you're gone, and the only thing left will be the traces of your ideas in the lives of others. That's how you outlive yourself. That's how you leave a mark that no grave can cover. Ideas are the bridge from mortality to immortality. You may not live forever, but what you think, what you create, what you believe, that can. So never underestimate the power of an idea. It can leap across centuries. It can inspire people you'll never meet. It can build a world you'll never see. And that, my friends, is the ultimate proof that ideas are stronger than time. The difference between a dream and an achievement. A dream is beautiful, but by itself, it does nothing. It just sits there in the mind, floating around like smoke. A vision is powerful, but if it stays locked in your imagination, it won't build a business. It won't change a life. It won't transform the world. What bridges the gap? What takes that vision out of your head and places it into reality? It's inspiration. Inspiration is the spark that ignites action, the fuel that turns possibility into progress. Without it, even the best vision remains only a wish. I've met people with incredible ideas, brilliant ideas. They could see the future. They could design solutions. They could imagine a better world. But here's the problem. They never moved. They never acted. Why? Because they lacked inspiration. And without that inner fire, a person can see the promised land but never take the first step toward it. Inspiration is what drives the body when the mind hesitates. Inspiration whispers, move now, try now, begin now. And suddenly, that abstract thought takes its first breath in the real world. Think about the great builders of history. The Wright brothers had a vision of human flight. Many laughed, many doubted, but they had more than vision, they had inspiration. A fire so strong it pushed them into action. Day after day, test after test, failure after failure, they kept moving. And one day their vision lifted off the ground. Or think of Thomas Edison. The man dreamed of bringing light into every home. That was a vision. But what made it possible was his relentless inspiration. The drive to keep experimenting, to keep creating, to keep moving until the vision became reality. That's the difference between people who only talk and people who create. Talkers have vision. Creators have vision plus inspiration. Talkers live in their heads. Creators live in their actions. And the world doesn't reward what you think. It rewards what you do. Inspiration is the bridge between the two. Now, here's something important. Inspiration doesn't always come as a lightning strike. Sometimes it comes as a whisper. Sometimes it's a book you read, a mentor you listen to, a failure that shakes you awake. Sometimes it's the quiet realization that time is short, that life is fragile, that you'd better move before it's too late. And when that moment comes, if you listen to it, if you allow it to fuel you, then suddenly your vision gains legs. It begins to walk, then run, then fly. But let me warn you, inspiration is not permanent. It has to be fed. If you don't fuel it, it fades. That's why so many people start strong and end weak. They get excited, they get inspired for a moment, but they don't keep feeding the fire. Inspiration is like firewood. You've got to keep adding logs. You add new learning, new challenges, new environments, new people who lift you higher. You can't stay around negative voices and expect inspiration to thrive. You can't stay in the comfort zone and expect your vision to come alive. You've got to fuel it. And here's the magic when you act on inspiration. The action itself generates more inspiration. Success creates momentum. Progress creates energy. Every little win fuels the next step. And before long, you're in motion, unstoppable, driven by a vision that's now alive in the real world. So don't just dream. Don't just plan. Get inspired. And let that inspiration turn your vision into action. Ask yourself every day, what's one step I can take to bring this vision closer to life? Do that. And one day people will look back and say, here was a person who didn't just imagine, didn't just talk, but acted, created, and transformed. That's the power of inspiration. It takes your vision out of the clouds and plants it firmly on the ground, where it can grow, expand, and serve others. That's the difference between a life of regret and a life of achievement. So guard your inspiration, feed it, follow it, and let it carry your vision into reality. Not the kind of chains you see on the outside made of iron and steel, but the kind that hold down the mind, the spirit, the will of people. For centuries, men and women have been trapped under systems of oppression, slavery, tyranny, dictatorship, injustice. And here's the truth. No chain, no prison, no wall has ever been strong enough to withstand a powerful idea. Ideas break chains. They always have, and they always will. You see, chains may bind the body, but they cannot contain the mind. The mind can travel where the body cannot. And once an idea of freedom, an idea of justice, enters a mind, it's only a matter of time before it spreads, before it multiplies, before it cracks open the walls of oppression. That's how slavery was defeated. That's how dictatorships crumble. That's how ordinary people rise up and reclaim their dignity. Not by brute force alone, but by the power of an idea that refuses to die. Think of history. Every major revolution began not with an army, but with an idea. The American Revolution wasn't just muskets and cannons. It was the idea that men could govern themselves, that freedom was a right, not a privilege. The French Revolution didn't begin with bloodshed. It began with the whisper of liberty, equality, fraternity. Nelson Mandela spent decades in prison. But the idea of freedom for South Africa could not be locked up with him. Gandhi had no armies, no weapons, no throne. Only an idea of nonviolent resistance. And that idea brought down an empire. Now here's what's amazing. Oppressors always fear ideas more than weapons. You can see it. Tyrants censor books, silence teachers, burn libraries, restrict speech. Why? Because they know the truth. An idea is more dangerous than a sword. A sword can cut a man down. But an idea can inspire millions to stand up. And when millions rise with one idea, no empire can stop them. But here's a lesson we must not forget. Not all ideas free us. Some enslave us even more. The world has seen dangerous ideologies, ideas of hate, of superiority, of division, that have chained nations in fear and bloodshed. So the challenge is not just to embrace ideas, but to choose the right ones. Ideas of justice, ideas of peace, ideas that lift, not destroy. And you might be asking, but what about me? I'm not leading a revolution. I'm not fighting a dictator. That may be true, but you've got your own chains. Chains of fear. Chains of doubt. Chains of habit. Chains of limitation. And the only way to break them is with a new idea. The idea that you are capable of more. The idea that your past does not define your future. The idea that you can rise, grow, and transform your life. Just like nations are set free by ideas of freedom. Individuals are set free by ideas of possibility. I've seen it happen. Someone hears a single phrase, reads a single book, listens to a single mentor, and suddenly a chain snaps. Suddenly they see a door where before they only saw walls. That's the power of ideas. They don't just change laws, they change lives. They don't just topple dictators, they topple inner limitations. So let's not underestimate this. If you want to change your world, start with an idea. If you want to change the world around you, spread an idea. The right idea in the right heart can set fire to generations. That's why I say, guard your mind, because it is the battlefield of ideas. Choose the ones that liberate you, not the ones that enslave you. Share the ones that empower others, not the ones that weaken them. Because in the end, it's not the chains of steel that matter, it's the chains of thought. And once you break those, you're unstoppable. Remember this, every great victory over oppression, whether personal or political, began with one person daring to believe in a different idea. And when enough people believe, chains shatter. They always do. That's a word that sounds noble, almost untouchable. We look at heroes in history, soldiers on the battlefield, leaders who stood against empires, and we say, They were brave. But here's the truth. Most people miss. Courage doesn't come out of nowhere. Nobody wakes up one morning, flips a switch, and suddenly has the strength to defy the odds. Courage needs fuel, and that fuel is inspiration. Without it, fear wins. Without it, doubt wins. But with it, ordinary people do extraordinary things. Inspiration fuels courage. Think about it. Fear is natural. It's wired into us. Fear whispers, "Stay safe. Don't risk it. Don't step out of line." And most people listen. That's why most people settle for less than they could be, less than they could do. But then something happens. An idea enters, a vision arrives, a word hits the heart, and suddenly the same person who was frozen by fear is ready to move. Why? Because inspiration lit a fire. It didn't remove the fear, but it gave courage the strength to override it. Take Martin Luther King Jr. He was not fearless. He faced death threats, jail, humiliation, opposition at every step. But he was inspired by faith, by justice, by the dream of equality. And that inspiration gave him courage. It gave him the ability to walk into danger and speak words that shook a nation. Or think of Joan of Arc, a teenage girl leading armies against impossible odds. Do you think she never felt fear? Of course she did. But inspiration gave her courage. It gave her a reason stronger than fear. Here's the pattern. When people are inspired by something greater than themselves, courage comes naturally. Parents will face danger for their children. Soldiers will risk their lives for their brothers in arms. Inventors will endure ridicule because they're inspired by a vision of the future. Inspiration enlarges the soul. It makes fear look small. And it's not just history. It's your life too. Maybe you're afraid to start that business. Maybe you're afraid to change careers, to step on stage, to say what you really believe. Fear is telling you, stay put. But if you find the right source of inspiration, courage rises. Suddenly the fear is still there, but it doesn't control you. You move anyway. That's courage. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. And inspiration is what makes that decision possible. Now here's the key. You can't wait for inspiration to randomly strike. You've got to create the conditions for it. Read books that inspire you. Listen to voices that challenge you. Surround yourself with people who lift you. Study stories of those who overcame fear. Feed your mind with examples of courage, and inspiration will grow. And when it grows, courage becomes your natural response. Because let me tell you, life will test you. You will face moments where the odds are stacked, where everything in you says quit. And in those moments, inspiration is not optional, it's survival. It's what keeps you in the fight. It's what pushes you to make the call, to take the leap, to risk the criticism. Without it, you'll fold. With it, you'll rise. And here's the magic. Your courage, fueled by inspiration, will inspire others. It becomes a cycle. One person's courage ignites another's. One person's action fuels a movement. That's how history changes. Not because a few special people were born fearless, but because they were inspired enough to move, and their courage gave others the strength to follow. So ask yourself, what inspires you? What cause, what dream, what vision is so strong it makes fear feel weak? Find that, hold on to it, and let it fuel you. Because when inspiration fuels courage, you're no longer ordinary, you're no longer limited by fear. You become bold, determined, unstoppable. And remember, courage doesn't mean you don't tremble. It means you move forward while trembling. It means you act anyway. Inspiration gives you that kind of power. It tells you, yes, you can. Yes, you must. And when you answer that call, fear loses its grip, and courage becomes your new way of living. That's how individuals defy the odds. That's how they resist fear. That's how they move boldly. Inspiration fuels courage, and courage changes everything. That's the word we use when the world changes. When something new appears that reshapes how we live, how we work, how we connect. But let's strip it back to the beginning. Innovation doesn't start with machines. It doesn't start with factories. It doesn't even start with technology. Innovation begins with one thing and one thing only. An idea. Every invention you've ever seen. Every tool you've ever used. Every piece of progress we take for granted today started in the invisible world of thought. The wheel, the printing press, electricity, the internet. They were all once nothing but ideas in someone's mind. That's the magic of it. Ideas drive innovation. Think about the first human who looked at a round stone rolling down a hill and thought, wait a second, what if? That small question birthed the wheel, and the wheel transformed transportation, agriculture, industry. Or consider Gutenberg staring at the challenge of copying books by hand and thinking, there has to be a better way. That thought gave birth to the printing press, and suddenly knowledge spread across the world, igniting revolutions, education, and entire civilizations of progress. One idea and humanity leapt forward. Fast forward to modern times. Think of electricity. Before light bulbs, the world went dark after sunset. But Edison had an idea. What if we could capture light and make it serve us? And though it took thousands of failed attempts, that idea eventually lit up the entire planet. Or take the internet. Before it, information traveled slowly, locked in libraries or letters. But someone thought, what if computers could talk to each other? What if information could move instantly across the globe? That one idea connected billions of people, gave rise to industries, and redefined what it means to live in a global society. And here's the key. Innovation is not reserved for geniuses, not locked away for the few. It's available to anyone who dares to think differently, to question the status quo, to imagine what others ignore. Every breakthrough was once dismissed as impossible, impractical, or ridiculous. People laughed at the idea of flying machines. They scoffed at the idea of talking across wires. They mocked the thought of humans walking on the moon. But today we fly across oceans. We talk instantly across continents. And we've left footprints on lunar soil. All because someone had the courage to protect an idea and turn it into innovation. Now here's where it gets personal. You don't have to invent the next airplane or the next internet to be innovative. In your business, in your career, in your daily life, innovation is born the same way. It begins when you say, what if? What if there's a better way to serve my customers? What if there's a faster way to reach my goals? What if I could solve this problem differently? That's where the seeds of innovation are planted. And if you nurture them, protect them, and act on them, they can grow into breakthroughs that change your life and maybe even change the lives of others. But here's the catch. Most people dismiss their own ideas. They say, it's silly. It's too small. I'm not smart enough. Someone else will do it. And so they let the idea die. Don't do that. Remember, the greatest inventions didn't start as grand. They started as tiny sparks. They only became great because someone believed in them, worked on them, and refused to give up. Innovation is not about size. It's about persistence. It's about believing in an idea long enough to see it take shape. It's about testing, failing, refining, and pushing forward until the idea becomes real. And once it's real, it has the power to move the world. So guard your ideas, respect them, capture them when they come. Because they often arrive softly, unexpectedly. Write them down, share them, experiment with them, because you never know. Your little idea might just be the spark that drives the next wave of innovation. That's the pattern of human progress. Ideas first, innovation second. And the world is forever changed after that. So, never underestimate the power of a single idea. It may seem small today, but it might be the very thing that defines tomorrow. That's the story of every invention humanity has ever created. That's the story of progress. And that's the story you can be part of. If you believe in your ideas enough to let them drive innovation. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot. Some people think leadership is about titles, about positions, about power. They say, if I'm the boss, I'm the leader. But we all know that's not true. A boss can command, a boss can order, but that doesn't make them a leader. True leadership doesn't come from authority. It comes from inspiration. The real leaders in history, the ones who moved nations, built movements, changed the direction of humanity. They didn't just sit on thrones or wear crowns. They inspired. They lit a fire in the hearts of others. That's why we remember them. That's why their influence lasts. Inspiration creates leaders. Think about it. A general can have an army by force. But unless he inspires them, they will not fight with courage. A CEO can hire employees, but unless she inspires them, they will not give their creativity, their best ideas, their loyalty. A teacher can stand in front of a classroom, but unless he inspires his students, all he transfers are facts, not wisdom. Leadership is not about authority, it's about influence. And influence comes from inspiration. History proves this. Look at Gandhi. He had no army, no wealth, no throne, but he inspired millions with the idea of nonviolent resistance. He showed them that courage could defeat an empire without firing a bullet. That's leadership. Look at Martin Luther King Jr. He had no government office, no military rank, but his words, his vision, his ability to inspire gave him the authority that no law could provide. People followed him not because they had to, but because they wanted to. That's the essence of true leadership. And it's not only on the global stage, in every community, in every business, in every family. The same principle applies. The father or mother who inspires their children to dream, to believe, to work hard, that's leadership. The entrepreneur who inspires a team to pursue a vision bigger than themselves, that's leadership. The individual who inspires friends to live with higher standards, to do better, to be better, that's leadership. You don't need a title to lead, you just need the ability to inspire. Now here's the key. Inspiration comes from ideas. You cannot inspire others if you yourself are empty. Leaders carry ideas worth following. They speak them, live them, embody them. That's what makes others look at them and say, I want to go where you're going. I want to be part of what you're building. Without ideas, a person in authority is just a manager. With ideas, even an unknown individual can become a leader. And here's something worth remembering. Inspiration is contagious. When a leader is inspired themselves, when they burn with vision, with belief, with passion, others catch the flame. People are not drawn to cold instructions. They're drawn to warmth, to conviction, to fire, and that fire spreads. That's why inspired leaders create inspired followers. And those inspired followers, in turn, become leaders themselves. That's how entire movements grow. But let's also be clear. False leaders exist. They can inspire, but with the wrong ideas. History has shown us that too. Dictators have inspired millions to follow paths of destruction. That's why the responsibility is so great. A true leader doesn't just inspire action. A true leader inspires the right kind of action based on truth, justice, and a vision that uplifts, not destroys. And maybe you're sitting there thinking, but I'm not a leader. Let me tell you, you don't have to wait for someone to hand you a title. You already lead someone, your children, your colleagues, your friends, even yourself. And the question is not, am I a leader? The question is, what kind of leader am I? Are you inspiring the people around you with ideas that make them stronger, braver, better? Or are you draining their energy, keeping them small? Every day, in every conversation, you have the chance to inspire. And that makes you a leader. So here's the challenge. Don't chase authority. Don't chase titles. Chase inspiration. Fill your mind with ideas worth sharing. Live them so authentically that others can see it in your actions. Speak them with such clarity that others feel it in their hearts. That's how you step into leadership. Not by being in charge, but by inspiring change. Because when the authority is gone, when the title is forgotten, when the position no longer matters, what remains is influence, and influence lasts forever. That's why the greatest leaders in history are remembered not for their crowns, but for their ideas, their vision, their inspiration. And if you want to lead in your world, that same path is open to you. Inspire others, and you will lead. It sounds like something far away, something written in the stars, something out of our hands. But let me tell you, destiny is not some mysterious force beyond our reach. Destiny is shaped right here, right now, by the ideas we choose to believe and the inspiration we choose to act on. That's the truth of it. Nations don't rise and fall because of luck. Civilizations don't flourish or collapse because of fate. Humanity doesn't move forward because of chance. It all happens because of the ideas people create and the inspiration that drives them to bring those ideas to life. Ideas and inspiration shape destiny. Look back at history. Why did Athens become the birthplace of democracy? Not because of chance, but because an idea took hold that ordinary citizens could have a voice in governing themselves. Why did the Renaissance explode across Europe? Because inspiration lit up minds with the idea that art, science, and human potential could break through the darkness of the Middle Ages. Why did America land on the moon? Because an inspired leader declared, "We choose to go to the moon." And that idea became the destiny of an entire generation of dreamers, builders, scientists, and explorers. And it works the other way too. Wrong ideas, fueled by dangerous inspiration, can shape destiny into tragedy. Entire nations have been led astray by poisonous ideologies. Civilizations have crumbled because they chose ideas of greed, hatred, or arrogance. That's why the responsibility is so heavy. The ideas we plant today will be the harvest our children and grandchildren live with tomorrow. Now bring it closer. It's not only nations, it's you. Your destiny is being shaped right now by the ideas you allow into your mind and the inspiration you allow into your heart. If you embrace small ideas, fear, doubt, limitation, your destiny will shrink to fit those boundaries. But if you embrace big ideas, growth, courage, contribution, your destiny expands. It's not complicated. Ideas are the blueprint. Inspiration is the builder. Together they write the story of your future. That's why you must guard your mind. Ideas are like seeds. Whatever you plant, grows. And inspiration is like water. Whatever you feed flourishes. If you fill your head with negative, destructive ideas and fuel them with passion, your destiny will be chained. But if you fill your head with ideas of greatness, of service, of progress, and fuel them with inspiration, your destiny will be limitless. And here's the beautiful part. You're not only shaping your own destiny, you're shaping the destiny of those around you. Every parent shapes the future of their children with the ideas and inspiration they pass on. Every teacher shapes the future of society by inspiring young minds. Every leader, every creator, every dreamer leaves ripples that travel far beyond their lifetime. So don't underestimate the power you hold. Don't think destiny is written somewhere else, by someone else. It's written by the ideas you cultivate and the inspiration you act on. Nations are shaped this way. Civilizations are shaped this way. Humanity is shaped this way. And your life, your one life, is shaped the very same way. So here's the challenge. Choose your ideas carefully. Choose the ones worth living for. Then feed them with inspiration until they grow so strong they define not only your life but the future of others. Because when you do, you won't just live a life, you'll shape destiny itself.